Sonic Movie Show is a weekly show that you can find on a variety of podcast services. Keep up with us by following our Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 77 of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan. With me, as always, is Devin.
You bitch. You dropped my baby.
I remember that line. That is not from a Sonic game. Although that would be really funny.
It'd be cool.
Yeah. That's from the 2007 movie Resident Evil Extinction, a film that made, as we recounted on the last video game movie review episode about Monster Hunter, it made $148 million.
Damn.
Which is insane. A huge bump up from the previous one, which was, well, okay, not that big. 129 was the previous one, but bigger.
Hey, 20
right?
mil is 20 mil, all right? It's more than we're making in our lifetime combined. So,
I mean, right? Yeah, so we watched this movie for this episode. This is the third Resident Evil movie. The last one we watched, Devin, was, guess what episode number was our Resident Evil Apocalypse episode? Without looking at the spreadsheet, because it says it there.
I feel like we just covered it, like, back in, like, December. That's what it feels like, but it might have been, like, October, November. So I'm going to say episode 64.
Ooh, you're close. It's episode 60. That was, I believe, late September, early October. I think it was late September, though. Yeah.
Feels like yesterday. Damn.
I know. Yeah, because we're doing this like every 5, so to speak, for the most part. That's why I'm excited to do this one today, because a lot of stuff's changed. We've watched another one of this director's films, Paul W.S. Anderson's latest video game movie, Monster Hunter. We watched this.
But he's a writer in this one, this time.
But yeah, so like, I want us to keep Monster Hunter in mind when we're talking about this movie, because we're going through this list. Well, yes, it's fresh, and we're going through. I want us to remember the old video game movies as we talk about the one we're talking about now. We're not going to pretend Monster Hunter doesn't exist just because we went back in time to 2007. So, putting this in mind, I'm going to remember. I listened to episode 60, the final bit of it, when we were talking about our final thoughts on the movie and where we think the next one could go. And I'm going to put this out there. I don't know how you feel, Devin. When we watched the first Resident Evil movie, we were like, oh, it's pretty cool. You know, it's definitely not like a video game. It's like kind of nothing to do with it, but like it's 2001 or whatever it was, right?
It's a good year.
Yeah, 2002. Like, okay, yeah, we're getting there. And then Resident Evil Apocalypse comes out, and we're like, okay, this is bigger and badder in terms of like badass, or maybe also bad. I don't know, depend. We had different conflicting opinions on
bigger
Apocalypse.
Budget, it felt like, in general.
I thought it was a big, bombastic, fun movie, and you thought it was boring, and we're kind of both right in that sense. It wasn't a great movie, but I thought it was fun. And at the end of that episode, we were like, man, what are they going to do next? Because I remember before I listened to this, our thoughts on it was, wow, this movie feels like it has nothing to do with the first one, in the sense that how are they connected? They just went from like basically mansion, science lab, horror survival, walking through a building, squad gets annihilated type of stuff, to now it's save the world action star with the giant monster and stuff in a giant city, and there's many people involved and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, man, they jumped from A to X here. Yeah. Where are they going to go to now? And so I listened to this.
Guess it's going to Z, but in...
Well, it loops back around, so you get AA and then AB and then AC, you know what I mean? So we went from A to X to now to AL, I think. In any case, at the end of our episode 60, our predictions for the movie we watched for today, we each predicted 2 different things. Although they worked at the same time.
I don't even remember what I said, to be honest with you.
So I had predicted, because I was like, yeah, these early video game movies don't really care all that much, at least in my understanding of them, and early, series of films don't care that much about a necessity of continuity in terms of making sure you get the actors back in. If you didn't kill this guy and he's on your team, he's on the next film, at least in the beginning. You can't just be like, oh, Jill Valentine's not here anymore, which is exactly what I predicted. I'm like, we're never going to see LJ again. Well, we did, but he died in this one. And I basically said, oh yeah, there was a little kid. Remember, they had a little kid with them at the end of the last one. I'm like, she ain't going to be in this next one. She's not. Jill Valentine, maybe. And obviously, Jill Valentine was the only one that wasn't in it. I guess the kid, I forgot about the kid until after this episode and after watching the movie and listening back to the episode. So that was my prediction of like, wow. Or like, they were not going to have
I actually
these
forgot
people
like
at
all the actors from Apocalypse. That like
I remember
it took
their
me like
faces.
it took me 30 minutes to be like, oh yeah, these are the same people from Apocalypse,
Really?
huh? Or from Apocalypse, huh? And I'm like, oh, whoops! It shows you how much I cared, I guess, about that film.
I had a little bit of extra boost because our YouTube background for Apocalypse was LJ and then the German guy, I forget his name. The guy who we thought was Chris Redfield for a while watching that movie. But he's not Chris Redfield. And it was the two of them. So I'm like, I had recognized their faces more-ish recently. But that was my prediction. I'm like, yeah, not all these people are going to be in the next one, and they're just going to pretend that happened. Your prediction, however, was different. Now, I will point this out. What you had said that you thought Apocalypse was going to be, the second one, what you thought that movie was going to be was this one. Was the world is shit. And there's going to be survivors and she's going to find some survivors. And now you went down the Walking Dead route of like two survivors fighting, groups surviving each other like a Walking Dead kind of scenario. That didn't happen. But your predictions for Apocalypse was for actually Extinction.
Yeah. To be fair, when you list the movie title as Apocalypse, I'm assuming that's the end times.
Right.
Not just in a town, a city. Like to me, I'm like the world is ending, and like this one just skips the world ending. It's like no, the world has ended.
Yes, yeah. Your prediction for Extinction was another company will make their own T-virus, and she's going to be sent in like the Terminator to stop them. And I was
Devin,
like,
that's pretty original.
That makes sense because because they can control her, right, and they're following her. And oh well, now here we are. So we watched this movie. Give me your opening thoughts about Resident Evil Extinction as a whole, without going too much into specifics.
I like this more than Apocalypse. I had to keep remembering the titles. Apocalypse. I liked it more than Apocalypse. I think I like it more than the first Resident Evil, but the bar wasn't like that high either. I thought it had some fun moments. I feel like I've seen parts of this before on like Sci-Fi Channel maybe growing up. I don't know. Cause like I remember like some of the crows attacking the bus.
Really?
I feel like that like triggered a memory for me. Unless that's another movie has done that. I don't know. Could have been. I feel like the overall direction of the film is not the best, but it's a little better than the last two. The story is goofy. Again, some of the stunts are cool. Some of the dialogue is cheesy as hell, but some of it's cool as well, like in a fun, bad way. So overall, I guess I liked it. I didn't know if I love it, but I liked it more than the other two, I guess.
Okay. For me, I'm very, very similar. I actually don't know how I would rank this compared to the other two, because like I did really like the second one, but like the parts in it that I liked are also still kind of here. I don't like the fact that they just drop a couple characters and don't have anything to say about them, or any like we just time skipped.
Because
like,
the ending of the second one was then like getting in a car.
Yeah, and driving off to do badass stuff,
and then
you know what I mean, to take on the world, and then we skipped years. It feels like, you know what I mean, like the world is shriveled up and died. But like it's literally you went from like normal civilization to now Mad Max. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not the whole world was turned into a desert, basically, which I don't know how that worked. I wanted more explanation on that. Was that nukes?
You would think when you take away people, Mother Nature takes back the planet, and it would be more green than before, but...
Yeah.
In any case, I thought that the movie was a lot of fun, but at the same time, wasn't all that special. There was a lot of parts where I'd be like, we could have skipped this. We could have skipped ahead of this. I understand your zombie survival group, large group tropes need to include a bunch of people you start to get to know and then they die. How does that affect other characters, et cetera, et cetera? I get that. But for the most part, I wanted to kind of like move on a lot. And when we finally got to like the climactic, like not even just the fight, but just like the circumstances around the climax, it didn't feel very climatic. It felt very much like, wow, we're like 40% of the way through this movie, right? Oh, wait, no, it's 20 minutes left? Okay. That was my thoughts. So, how do we want to do this? Do we want to do a big old recap, or do we want to
maybe
talk generally?
Not a full recap, but just kind of like, here's the first 20 minutes, the things we liked in the first 20 minutes. So kind of break it down by that instead of being like, okay, then this happened, because if we were waiting for it to, I agree with you. There's some parts where I'm like, okay, let's keep it moving, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about the cool stuff, and then we can talk about the negative stuff within the first half hour, an hour. I will say, if we want to start like that, I will say I have some cool stuff that I want to talk about, or stuff that I appreciated in the beginning. So did you like
the opening? Were you like mean, or like did I pick the wrong movie? Because I swear this is how.
Well,
it
started off
with
opened. Like the Capcom logo, right, and all that. And then it had brought back the music from the first movie, which wasn't in the second one, I don't think. Like that like
completely different score. I thought
that theme, that Resident Evil movie theme. That like one of the positives I have for the first movie is that the soundtrack was banging. They brought that back, and as soon as that came up, I'm like, okay, you know what I like. I'm glad you're bringing it back. And then like you said, I thought I did go to Amazon back to or wherever I got it from. I got I was looking to see, I'm like, is this the right movie too? Because the first like minute and a half felt, I honestly feel like they grabbed everything and then put it in again. Yeah. Like they didn't change anything. They didn't like shorten it. Maybe they did, but it did feel kind of weird.
I did think, because she looks at the scar that's on her like shoulder, and I'm like, I definitely remember there was no scar on her. I remember that, and I think she spent more, because I remember there was a scene where she opens up a drawer and there's a whole bunch of guns in the first movie, but like that didn't dawn on me until afterwards when I'm thinking about them. Like there was, but like it was. I'm like, I'm looking back. I'm like, it says Extinction. Let me look on the spreadsheet because I have the run times listed. Okay, this movie says an hour and a half plus 4 minutes. I wrote down 94 minutes. Okay, that lines up. First Resident Evil movie shorter. Okay,
I kept waiting. I'm like, it's gotta tie in. But I was like, at what point would you have turned the movie off and like, or really like actually backed out and like looked into it more? If like, let's say they actually were like, we did the first 30 minutes of the first one. God. At what point would you?
I was pretty set on like skipping ahead just to make sure. So I probably would have done that. Like,
gotcha.
If I spent another 5.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I was gonna say is like, I feel like after 10 minutes I'd be like, okay, something's wrong. Like this is listed, the wrong movie is listed.
That happens sometimes.
Does it?
On Amazon? Yeah.
Huh? I'd be mad because I paid $5 to rent this or whatever, how much it was. But no, I like the music, and then I do like kind of how it was like they pulled a. I feel like I always use this example, Thor Ragnarok, where like they're like, hey, everything you remembered about, don't worry about it too much. But at the same time, there's a lot of parts in this that you should remember from Apocalypse and the first movie. Obviously the beginning, but like right after that, they're like, we have a narration from Alice, who she's like, oh yeah, the world ended and like all of us survive now, and I'm like, okay, so we're killing off everybody. That's why I thought everyone was gonna be dead at that point. And then there's certain people who were back and some others who weren't, and they never explained why those people weren't back, which was kind of disappointing. I'd rather just have no one back and just be like, yeah, they died, or like she says it in a sentence at some point that like, once the apocalypse hit, like we went our separate ways or something like that. Like we had. I
guess I would accept that if like they could not get those people back. If that was it was like a movie decision thing. Because personally, like, I see that and it's like, yeah, we didn't, and I didn't want the little girl from the last movie in. Not that I remembered that while watching this movie. This is a thought I had after the fact. But I still, at the same time, would like some closure on what the hell happened. That whole fucking movie was about saving that kid. And then they get that kid. And then we just don't see the kid anymore. You know what I mean? Like, Jill Valentine, like, I hated her at the beginning of the movie, and then I liked her more and more and more. She became one of the crew. She was a good, just a cool character. She's just gone. I'm pretty sure that actress, they just couldn't get her, and then that's it. Say something about it. And at the very least, you need to have more than one line, in my opinion, of like, hey, this is what happened. Here's a narration about events that happened. Like, literally, it's a throwaway line later that when she meets up with them again, when she says, oh yeah, I ran away because they were tracking me. Like, that the last movie did not set up that. This is we have a much better idea. We wrote a script for this movie and tossed it away, and we're starting something else. That's what it feels like to me, where it's like the last movie was setting up something different, and this one is than this movie is doing, right? So I personally would have preferred some more exposition even. I don't even care if characters just straight up tell me, and we did this, and then this happened, and then that's why we're here. I'd rather have that happen than nothing, personally, because events happened. But they just skipped, like you said, I think you said it was weeks or years. I don't even remember. Like, I think they said in weeks' time the world ended, basically. And then, like, over years, these deserts formed for reasons. It's cool. I think it's a cool concept. But I guess I kind of wanted to know why. Just because it's kind of like, it's not like, oh, the zombies can use guns now. Like, I don't really need an explanation for that. Like, that's just cool. But when you, like, have a setting in the world that just happens without any explanation, I just want something. Like, they could have just been like, due to the methane that the zombies produce, the world heated. They fart too.
Yeah, or like something like that, or
I mean,
factories,
they don't,
nuclear.
They just tell us. They don't even show us how.
They just like it just went to desert. I'm like, oh,
we see an After Effects graphic of the world turning to sand. That's about it. And like, while I can't personally fault this movie for it. We did just watch a Paul W.S. Anderson film that's entirely in the desert. So, like, I still have that on my mind. I'm like, oh, fucking sand. I understand Anakin Skywalker now. I'm so fucking tired of it.
Because maybe that's what his issue was. He was watching too many Paul W.S. Anderson films. But yeah, I like the beginning generally. Like I said, there's just those fine things I wish they could have like elaborated more on, or just maybe done a little different. I love that she's on a fucking motorcycle in the beginning, and then she goes to that one base with a shotgun and like the double sword dagger things, like
machetes. That's what they are.
She's BA in this for sure, and especially it's shown in the beginning that like, oh, she knows what she's doing, and I'm like, at this point too, I was like trying to remember, I'm like, okay, so is this the same? Because at this point, we also know that there's like a clone of her or something that is killed or dies in the mansion there that they show.
Right, and then also from the last movie, she died, and that was the original. They just like healed her because she was special. Sorry, because I'm thinking about because she was like fatally injured in the end of the last movie, and it looked like she had died, but actually she was taken down, and like her memories were wiped, but then she got them back in like the last 15 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like they were setting up in the beginning of this movie, like there was plenty of clones of her, and that's how I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, like what are they going to do with this? So.
But yeah, I really liked just the trained her, I guess, the master of acrobatics, guns, weapons of the like. I like how she goes in there, and I already knew this was going to be a trap. And I was like, didn't they do this in Zombieland? Like, verbatim? The whole, like,
probably
girl needs help, and they call on the phone, they go to the grocery store or whatever, a gas station, and then, like, that's how they get involved. And I'm trying to remember when that movie came out. So I'm like, is
Zombieland?
This before or after?
It feels like a 2000, late 2000s.
2009, 2010. But I wonder if they were like inspired by this, or maybe they were mocking this.
2009.
damn. So 2 years later, but I just thought it was funny that I was like, I already knew it was a trap. I'm just like, this seems exactly like that movie. I'm sure maybe another zombie movie's done it before. I feel like there's been so many zombie movies over the years. I feel like everything's been done to an extent. It's just how do you do it again? But I like that, and I like the dogs. They brought the dogs back.
Yep, every one of these movies has the zombie dogs,
and
you need that.
Yeah, and I feel like it was a good like action scene because they had the flashback, or well, not a flashback, but the kind of a flashback, but not for the clone. And they have the narration, and then they go to this, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're coming to see Resident Evil for at this point, is the action. That's what's keeping me involved in these films, is the action and the cool effects. The dogs look good. You get your you drop my baby bitch, which I thought was funny. I laughed out loud. Then you had the dude getting weirdly rapey, which made me uncomfortable. Also, the fact that the woman who's like, you dropped my baby, was also like,
His mom.
or mom or whatever.
They called her mama, so
fucking weird. But yeah, I like that whole thing. And
I'm
then
sure. I mean, they're cannibals, right?
That's what I'm assuming.
I think they were going to eat her.
Oh,
so.
I got that, and also just rape vibes. But I really like that this opening part of the sequence as well. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Did you like that? Was it?
I feel like that she like basically almost kicked his head off, because the last movie established that she's like superhuman and all that stuff.
I actually forgot that until she like kicked him and then he flew or whatever.
Yeah, no, I liked that part. I liked that whole sequence. We get to see how she is able to overcome something. You throw that in the beginning of the movie to tell new audiences and returning audiences as a reminder about who she is and what she can do. Because remember, this movie came out in 2007, and the previous one was 2004, and this is of an era where not every single movie is a freaking sequel to things. You know what I mean? So some people just forget and move on, like justified normal people. So I liked that. I liked that the bad people got their comeuppance and they fell down and the zombie dogs ate them. I kind of wish that they showed it a bit more, personally. But yeah, no, I think that was cool. I still question what she was searching for, because it kind of just sounded like during that time, obviously she has no one to talk to, therefore she's not giving us any exposition. She's just kind of wandering around getting gas and maybe helping anyone that's like obviously in trouble. That's why she got stuck there. And then she finds the
she's also saying, like, remember, journal. She also, her argument for like why she couldn't hang out with her friends was because she's getting tracked. Wouldn't she want to be not putting herself in danger, even if it is people asking for help? I don't know. Her idea is that
she's stuck off the grid somehow, but I don't know, maybe she knows that they can just mind control her, essentially. But she finds this like journal, which I was very confused, because the whole time she's hearing the transmissions from the convoy, right? Claire Redfield's convoy. And then she finds that journal, and like there is not relief on her, but like some sort of like acknowledgement of like importance of this thing. You know what I mean? There's an acknowledgement there. It isn't just someone's random book she finds. And when she's reading through it, it talks about like, oh, there was another transmission again, this time, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't get a good look at it. I thought it was her own diary at first. I'm like, oh, she found her journal back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, no, why? And like the book is very obvious, like, fly over here. And this place is isolated. I'm like, like, who's... Or is it, what did they write this for, themselves? You know what I mean?
Just one of those classic, just one of those classic apocalypse things. Like, I'm gonna write everything down,
right,
for someone. Even
next to
hope.
A photo of a guy holding on a horse, or like walking next to a horse, whatever it was. That whoever the author of the journal was wrote in red next to it the word "carefree." Like, okay, yes, I can tell from the photo that this person did not have zombies on his ass. Thank you, Mr. Journal or Mrs. Journal. But yeah, no, I was just like, why is she out here? What's she doing? She needed to establish a purpose there.
I would never read that shit, by the way, in Apocalypse. Like, there's so much trauma, I think, that would be in those writings, you know?
for sure.
Like, I'd be like, I'm probably already fucked up mentally forever.
Or on drugs.
Or on drugs. Maybe not on drugs. Drugs would be hard to come by, I think, at that point. But
just like the cigarettes.
The last thing I want to do is be like reminded of this shit world I'm in constantly. Be like, oh, this journal, and like, even if they're like safe zone, I'd be like, at this point, it's been years. Is anywhere safe? You just narrated to me that like nothing is. Everything's a desert, but Alaska.
Apparently, right?
Good old Alaska.
Yeah, no, there are no cigarettes in the convoy. Claire Redfield's convoy, and at first I thought that was Mila Jovovich. I'm like, oh, they cut to her. She's with the crew. Oh, she was a scouting. No, okay, no, this is someone else. And I had to remember at first. I'm like, was it Claire Redfield in the last one? No, it was Jill Valentine. So they just, again, this is just another character from the video games that they just made the character that they wanted to write named after, essentially. Like, that's not what she's about. You know what I mean? She's not that. But they put her in there anyway. And actually, she is one that would drive the motorcycle, by the way, in the video games, at least. So, yeah, she's got a convoy. It's your classic group of survivors going from town to town, getting gas, getting food.
I don't know if you've seen... Have you seen Dawn of the Dead, 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead from...
No.
Well, it's your boy Zack Snyder directed this and has screenplay of George A. Romero, who did Night of the Living Dead, the famous zombie film, one that started it all, basically, and James Gunn on screenplay. So very heavy directors and whatnot in that. But in that movie, they also have a bus that has the bulldozer in front of it, the plow, and like has it all decked out. And it's what I find funny in this movie. I'm like, everything in this movie has been done either after or before this already. And that movie was 2004, so 3 years. Well, 2004 was also when Resident Evil 2 came out. And I just find it funny that they did the bus thing with the plow, and then they had it in there. I'm like, hell yeah! And it also gave me Mad Max vibes in general too, with the
yeah, kind of
not like to the same level or extent, but generally speaking, that they MacGyvered a vehicle a war rig that could survive a crowd of zombies.
They got a chain fence along the bus windows, you know what I mean? So they got it going on. My other issue is that this group also has no plan. Now I get it. They're a group, at least at the start of their journey, they had 50 people, right? Obviously making sure these people are fed and safe is kind of the goal, but they never really had like a plan. They were kind of just going around the Southwest United States, getting food, getting gas, just like what Alice is doing. And eventually, obviously, they meet up. But before they do that, simply going through a town, you got your boy LJ and the German guy whose name I can never remember. They go into a hotel, and basically LJ gets bit. And he does the zombie trope where he hides it. But the difference, at least to me, from this and like the trope, is that usually it's the asshole character that is the one that doesn't say he got bit. Like, LJ is not an asshole. He's the comic relief, and he maybe is a bit of a coward and is a bit, like not on the ball, so to speak. Yeah. But he's not an asshole. Obviously, he wouldn't be like, that one, because So it was a bit curious as to why he thought he could hide it, or maybe even just be like, hey, remember in the last movie when we cured someone with the virus? You know what I mean?
That's been how many years at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also feel like he should have said something. And two, I also thought this is where the movie kind of surprised me was I thought he was going to do the sex with the one girl, in the middle of the night he was going to turn into a zombie, or she has a zombie baby.
Exactly. Because that also is a bit inconsistent, too, because it's like 2 days almost after he got bit before he changes. Meanwhile, our other guy, he starts showing signs immediately after getting bit by LJ.
Maybe you could argue that it's like any other disease, that sometimes it just affects people differently in the...
COVID.
Like COVID, or I'm saying a cold or flu.
By the way,
you know what I mean?
When Alice is narrating about how the world just ended basically suddenly, she's talking about how the virus spread from Raccoon City, and she said within like a couple weeks it infected the entire United States, and then it started to infect Europe and the rest of the world. I'm like, knowing from experience, that's not how that worked.
Yeah.
COVID basically went everywhere all at once because motherfuckers just got on planes and went everywhere.
No one went to Europe. No one paid attention. No one went to Europe for
nope.
for like 2 weeks. No one.
Yeah, exactly. They must not have had an asshole for president during their outbreak. So, in any case, yeah.
It is funny when we've watched all these like movies that have diseases and stuff, and like we're in a pandemic, like something that movies have done made about, and like we actually have lived through it. Like, it's always crazy to me every time. And Resident Evil's been the biggest one, I think, out of all the movies we've watched, where I'm just like, huh. The entire time, like, would it work like this? I don't know.
Silent Hill was very close. In any case, skipping along, we get a scene that basically says, hey, we're out of food because we gave up all the cans.
We had the one character named Kmart.
Yeah, so she's not introduced yet, but at the same time, I have subtitles turned on when I watch these films. It says her name. She's just one of the people that like says "ah" or something before she's introduced, and it says Kmart says "ah." I'm like, okay. But yeah, there's the guy that can tell what the food in the can is by shaking it, and there's a lot of air in those cans because there's a lot of slosh and slap going on in there. But that's just some Foley work there, I guess. Just quick scene, and then they get attacked by crows, and then obviously the crows are a good visual indicator to us of how far away Alice is. Oh, she's like right around the corner, and she's going and she helps them. Bunch of people die.
I will say that was cool when one crow, not the first crow, but one of the crows landed on the bus.
Oh, on the hood of
and then
the
like
bus?
Its eyes are all like bugged out. I thought that was really, really cool. And
was it the impression that did you get the impression that they were blind? You know what I mean? That they were hearing, or
I mean, their eyes looked blind, but also it was like I just gotta like, oh, these are zombified in some way or form. I just thought they were cool, and I like the idea that all of them, like, I mean, those kind of birds, crows and ravens, whatnot, they all travel in packs, but I like the idea of like there's this huge flock of them that just goes around the desert. And I'm like, and if Alice doesn't come and save the day, like, they would have been chewed out alive eventually, or they would have waited them out.
Well, there were a few that were basically good to go, I think, in their own smaller cars. I guess
I'm just saying, like, I feel like they would follow the vehicles endlessly.
God, how fucking terrifying would that be?
I think it's worse than zombies at that point, because they can fly. You can't really defend yourself.
The flamethrower wasn't doing nearly as much as I thought it would.
I also didn't know that was a flamethrower, which I thought was kind of cool. I was like, wait, I thought it was a minigun or something. Same. And then once it started shooting fire, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I appreciate that.
Why didn't you do that first?
I don't know.
Okay. The guy had to climb up there. It's on top of a bus. You know what I mean? It's a big deal. So.
And also it changes up the pace of, like, I do like the zombie dogs, and the zombies are whatever. I'm glad that they added a new, because every Resident Evil movie there's been like a new type of like monster that isn't like the main villain or something like that. There's been like something different. So I thought that was cool.
And then Alice is with them now.
And we get a little bit of reunion. She has like the Force basically,
right?
Which I thought was a little bit
nightmare.
I'm just like, no, go ahead.
She has a nightmare earlier, where it's like, and while she's having her dream, she's using her telekinesis out of like, without really realizing it, destroys her own bike. You know what I mean? This is my first thought too, because they only show one rock move, and it gets lifted up. And my first thought was not telekinesis. It was, oh, there's an invisible man picking up a rock to hit her in the head with it.
I did not think that.
That was my first thought for some reason.
I was just like, oh. And then once they lift Morrisek, I'm like, okay, really? Like, I understand she's a super mutant, but now she has telekinesis? How does that even... No other creature has shown that they have telekinesis or, like, that kind of stuff. So I was kind of like, not bummed, but I was just kind of like, okay, so she's more than just BA. She's just a god in the sense of she has these outworldly abilities that no one else could even imagine. But at the same time, I guess zombies are not real in real life, so whatever. What do I know?
And like my criticism is, well, what are the limits? Like, is she just a god? Is she unstoppable, or is like what's going on? But at the same time, she doesn't know either. So like, it works. It's not like she was really able to control it all that well. It was, so I feel like it's okay.
She has the 11 thing from like Stranger Things, where like she doesn't know how to use it
afterwards,
and she gets hurt afterwards. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Well, there's
Stranger Things ripped off stuff from the 2000s too, not just the 80s.
Yeah. I just feel like, where do you go from there? Like you said, there's like, what rules are there then at that point? I'm like, because there was never a point where she did it and like she was like knocked out cold. It was just like, I'm weak for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I wish maybe they could have shown like, oh, if she does it too much, she will die.
Yeah.
Or explode or something. I don't know.
Jesus. Yeah, like show like a vein visibly popping up on her head. You know what I mean? Something.
Or her eyes bleeding or something. More than just her nose. Like, I get nosebleeds in the morning. I'm not fucking psychic.
I haven't had a nosebleed in years.
When it's dry, I get nosebleeds sometimes. But I wanted like something more to that instead of just being like, oh yeah, she can do this now. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. In any case, our bad guys have been finding her, or they found her. They've been searching for her, and they found her with this because she decided to now step on the grid. I don't know. Oh wait, no, the creepy white hologram girl found her because she sensed her telekinetic abilities. In any case, yep, we have our main bad guy.
They have and the bad guy is with the people in the all holograms, and I just thought of Seal from Evangelion again, where everyone's in a business meeting, and like they're all in different parts of the world. And
Avengers Endgame does that too, and even Captain America: Winter Soldier. So many things do. Like all the bad guys meet up in their own secret computer monitors to watch each other. Yeah,
they're evil Zoom. They're evil Zoom.
Exactly. And our main bad guy there is Wesker from the Resident Evil series, but our scientist guy is being kind of put out by him. This guy was the guy. Yeah, Dr. Isaacs was in the last one, at least in the last time frame of the movie. But was he also? He was the doctor throughout that entire movie anyway, too, right? I'm pretty sure. And he was. Okay. Because I could have sworn that they left him on the roof when they got in their helicopter.
No, they did. They did lift someone on the roof.
That was someone else then.
Yeah, other bad guy, other white guy who wanted power or something. I don't know.
Whatever. In any case, he's I don't know what his ultimate motivation is other than just his research must be completed and therefore then he controls everything. But that's what he's doing, but he's being pressed for time because they're running out of food and shit. Their plan is to turn the zombies into like workers, essentially, into slaves, and not cure people, just like, yeah, we'll just use them to make our company better. Okay.
To who?
I don't know. At this point, there's no governments or anything.
Who's buying it? Like, to do what?
At this point, I mean, like...
maybe
this is how it will work in real life. Governments will collapse before giant, mega-rich corporations, and they will become the New World Order.
I'm saying, I guess they would, set up a society or whatever, I guess, and then, like, those people would work with these workers, but, like...
That's my thing, though. Like, your money is useless when there is no society, so therefore you have no money. Because, like, if you pay me to do something for you, my money is useless. So what can you offer me, giant corporation, in the future? In any case, he's been working on the Alice project, and he's been also trying to then inject samples of her blood into just zombies to see if they are okay. I know this doesn't happen here yet, but we're just kind of skipping ahead because I'm kind of even though I just watched the movie, don't exactly remember the order of things. There is a scene at least where he injects a zombie with the antivirus, and the thing just becomes like a weird person.
I actually want to talk about that scene because what really, really bothered me with that scene, I thought it was cool as a concept. They're like, they're trying to teach it's like Planet of the Apes, kind of like, the smart monkeys. We need to test them now, and like, oh wow, they're learning, but they're pissed. They did that. But what's funny is they gave him a cell phone first, then a camera, then a kid's puzzle toy. Shouldn't it be the complete opposite? Shouldn't you give him the puzzle, then maybe a camera or a cell phone? Not very smart things, and then like, here's basic puzzle.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess the idea with the phone and camera was simply, do you recognize what these are?
He took a picture and he put up the phone and was like, "What's up?" No. At that point, I'd been like, he's already like, why do we even give him the puzzle? Give him a canvas and paint. See what he paints something.
I know, just like the elephant from that one zoo. Well, maybe they were intending on giving him the puzzle first, but like, he just picked up the phone and was like, yo, bitch, I'm on this phone from 2007. Next year we're getting iPhones, Hey,
grandma, or something, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get that scene. Of course, our bad guy needs to be proven that he's a bad guy by unnecessarily not helping his other fellow scientists when they get eaten by the zombie guy. Sure, we need to just establish that this guy also still sucks. Even though we had a bigger guy talk down to him, this guy still sucks. So, jumping back, the crew, Alice, Claire Redfield, LJ, and our guy that we don't remember have concluded that they must vote with the whole group on whether or not they should go to Alaska, which is what Alice's journal thing says. Because apparently, if you write in giant red marker the word isolation and then underline it 3 times and then also circle it, that must mean it's true. But in any case, what hope do they have? They need a goal, and I agree with that. That was my criticism of up until then. So yeah, they need a goal.
I'm like, yeah, where else are you going?
Right. I thought they were honest to God in Mexico. When they said Las Vegas, I'm like, this guy said he is on a half a tank of gas. You're not making it to America, let alone Vegas, which is halfway up.
You're not even making, maybe getting out of Nevada. You're driving a bus. Buses need a lot of fuel.
They are going to go stop by Nevada because that's where all the gas is and potentially food. It also does suck if this world is all desert. Are you growing food?
I don't know where they keep getting all this food from. I don't know.
Well, they're running out. It's all canned food. So, I
feel like that'd be gone, by the way. Speaking of COVID again, how quickly people turn to just buying everything. Zombie apocalypse. There was nothing on the news that was like people eating each other. I'm like, people are already jumping to like, I have to be inside for months, years, within a week. I can't imagine if like all of a sudden like a zombie breakout happened. There'd be no fucking paper towels.
People would immediately jump to extreme violence if that happened in real life. Like, I will kill everyone in this grocery store. I will. Like, that's the extreme people will jump to immediately, guarantee it.
Instead of like just rationing it and being, actually smart about it.
But dude, this is not the direction I thought we were going for this movie based off the last one. I'm bringing this conversation back. Like, we're all of a sudden talking about the nitty-gritty about like, the survival economics in a post-apocalyptic zombie world. Like, that was not the action movie Spaced in a City we watched back in September or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So just like, oh man, we are just jumping straight here. But fine, we're on the road, in the desert, we're going to Nevada. Bad guys are tracking them and chasing them. Bad guy uses some clever voice tricks to make Wesker's order to not go there into an order where you are supposed to go there. And he sets up a bunch of what I assumed were zombies that were given the Alice blood stuff, because they were all dressed up in the same outfit. They were put in like a crate, and released again on them.
Yeah.
At the same time, they still acted like the zombies, so I'm not quite sure. Maybe it just made them stronger.
I don't know. They really didn't show.
They were just getting shot the fuck up.
Why would they have put clothes on them?
Right. Now your victims there know they were sent.
Also, just a pain in the ass for everybody involved.
Putting clothes on something that wants
transportation. To eat you? Yeah, there's just too much. Who's making these clothes?
I don't know. But they have a cowboy climb the Eiffel Tower, and he talks about mass shootings, essentially makes a joke about that. I brought an assault rifle on top of the Eiffel Tower. This would be a different story. He climbs up there. What was his purpose up there for?
He was basically giving them cover, I think, just like from the top. And he actually, when he does die, or that whole like the whole interaction he has with that one lady climbing up, he's like, "Give me your hand," and like all they do is do like this. They grab each other's like tips of their fingers, and like he helps pull her up with like the tips of the finger. I'm like, can you all acted that better? Couldn't you have done another take where he's actually like using his forearm a little bit instead of just being like, "Oh yeah, you actually didn't need my hand. I'm just kind of like here." It just looked so fake to me.
He got to think that he helped.
Yeah, and then he dies anyways, and then she dies anyways. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, this like you can't get too attached to these characters. Like,
I wasn't attached. I was kind of just like, that was bad. Just like I was not like that. I'm like, that looked.
Alice sure isn't really getting attached. She only really gets attached to kids because children. But like, yeah. So they go there, and then do they get their stuff, or do they immediately just drive away and find? Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm taking this back. So Alice has been deactivated by a satellite that has the Umbrella logo all over it, which is kind of corny. I don't think anyone's going to be like
Did they
flying
show
past
that
the
in
satellite.
the second one?
They might have. I mean, they own everything. They're Amazon plus. You know what I mean? Or maybe Umbrella is Amazon minus because Amazon's starting to get scary now. Amazon
Big Pharma, though. They're like a weird combination of Big Pharma and like owning a lot of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they deactivate her because they're just going to go and grab her and collect her. But now here's my thing. I didn't remember seeing, and granted, I did have my phone out. I don't remember them setting up that tent. But it makes sense, obviously, if they're going to set an ambush. They wanted to hide the fact that they were not going to be flying a helicopter around. They wanted to park that, obviously. So they set up the tent and all that. But yeah, she's deactivated, but she somehow breaks free and destroys a computer chip on the satellite in the process. Is it just simply one of those things where, like, the cliche where, like I don't know if it's literally like Dragon Ball Z does this, or like two people shooting their energy beams and they collide and then like it gets pushed back and forth. Like that's what I feel like happened Invisibly, where she pushed it all the way back through space and it blew up the satellite chip.
And that was so bad looking. I understand it's 2007, but it just looked like video game cinematics then. And I was just like, ugh. There's a lot of just
the
weird...
zombies looked good because they were mostly makeup. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, especially when the ones that just stayed on screen for a while, they got more makeup. And then she breaks free, helps them kill this stuff, and then she runs up the stairs. Somehow these dudes can see through her eyes, which is scary because they were doing a POV view of her climbing up the stairwell, like running up the stairwell. And she runs into the tent to kill them all. But, of course, Mr. Scientist gets away, but he gets bitten by a stray zombie.
Of course.
Right? And he gets away. And then Alice is like, oh, yeah, we're not going to Alaska anymore because I actually know what we're supposed to do. Finally, the plot caught up to us, and we can actually continue this movie instead of pretending we're going to Alaska. Because God knows I wasn't going to stick around with you guys. So, she doesn't shoot down the helicopter. She's going to chase them down. So they all do that together. LJ finally turns and bites our German guy. German guy has no hesitation, puts him down. Devin, let's be honest here. This is my opinion of this matter, but let's be honest here. If you hid that you were bitten by a zombie and you started to turn on me, I'd be like, what the fuck, man? And I would shoot you. And I would expect the same from you as well.
My thing is always, if I had to even just like the concept of, can you shoot someone who just got bit? It's kind of shitty, but I would do the thing where like, I'd wait until they're like about to turn. Like give them as much time as they can. Instead of just, because there's always like, some people are like, oh, he's bit, bam. Like, I've seen that trope before, too.
Yeah, as long as you keep an eye on the person, like, you're okay. You know?
But My thing is always, I feel like you can't hesitate, and that's what he did well there. He didn't hesitate. I feel like once you start hesitating or overthinking, like, oh shit, this is Ethan, this is my dog, about to pull the trigger on. Like once you start thinking about it, like that's when you're dead. Yeah. So like you kind of have to just be like, fuck, boom.
Yeah. And he actually tells everyone, hey, I'm Bit, bro. And they formulate a plan. He's going to drive the bus.
Hey,
he's going to blow it up right outside because the bad guy's little like shack, like this decoy shack, which is weird, is surrounded by zombies because they see civilization instead of just the horizon. And that's where they're flocking to, I guess.
How do they know, by the way? Was it just Alice, all those Alice cloned bodies that are kind of just attracted to?
I have no idea. My thinking literally is there's nothing else around, so therefore we'll go here. It's the only thing I could think of. But
I like
also
the
those
idea
bodies,
of being
those Alice
surrounded
bodies
by-
would have rotted. Like they would have rotted. Like those are obviously dummies that they made, and they wanted to make us 100% like certain that yes, that's just her over and over again, wearing the same dress all the time. Where are they getting all those dresses? But
this
you know
is
what I
fucked
mean?
up to say, but like at the same time, once again, where are they getting all these dresses? Are you making more, or was there just a whole bunch in stock somewhere? Like at that point, if they're clones, like would you be dressing up in exactly the same thing? I guess they're going for the whole memory thing. I would just be like, honestly, I'd just be like, just give her like a gown and call it a day. Just like, do we have patient gowns? Let's do that.
Well, the more variables you keep constant, the easier it is to determine differences in your tests.
I guess, yeah. But this goes back to the zombie thing. Like, why are you giving them all these nice track jumpsuits?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey, they're Amazon, right? They own everything. You don't pee in. You don't have to pee in your bottle. You know what I mean? You can go to the bathroom whenever you want.
Here in Umbrella,
okay.
you can go anytime.
Yeah. Did you see someone made a new mock-up of the Amazon logo where it's a bottle with Amazon written down vertically, and then like their arrow thing looks straight up like someone is peeing into the bottle.
Yeah, I saw that.
Love it. Brilliant. Yeah, so they do that. He blows up. He gets to smoke a joint though before he dies. It's cool. I was actually wondering which he was going to light first, the joint or the fuse, but he chose the fuse because you know what? He's a G. Yeah, and then they drive in. But
I do like that pan out, by the way, that he did where he's just kind of smiling, and then the zombies are coming in. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it zooms out through the side window. You know what I mean? And then it blows up. Yeah. This is where Alice leaves the group behind. They're going to go go to Alaska. Like, here's my question now. Video game character Jill Valentine is not in this movie. That was in the previous one. Is Claire Redfield not going to be in the next one? You know what I mean? No one else that we know is in the group anymore.
Based off the after credit scene or the credit scene, I don't remember if it was after, post, or whatever it was. Credit scene, I makes me think that it's just Alice in the next one, new characters in the next one.
Right. Was that a credit scene?
I
don't think it was. I think it was before. Because I watched the credits like 3 minutes before we recorded.
Every movie does like a post-credit scene or mid-credit scene that I'm like, I don't remember when.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. So she infiltrates on her own, and the little hologram girl is like, "Yo, you can make a cure right here, right now, yo." And Alice is like, "Your homicidal sister, the red one,
diced my friends with lasers."
Right? She's like, "Oh, that's only what she was just logically doing." Also, I'm 7. That would have been an actually funny moment. Be like, well, she was like 12, so it's okay. You can't blame her too much. So I'm just gonna skip really this part. She just goes in and she fights the bad guy and she wins really quickly.
Yeah, Dr. Isaacs has like the tentacle hands.
He's kind of like what's his name? From the second movie and also the game Nemesis. It's kind of like just another Nemesis, really. I mean, that's kind of what Resident Evil does, where it's like, oh, yep, it's just mutation, and the big bad guy has a big arm, or a big weird
and
asymmetrical design.
He has like the force power too that she has.
Yeah,
and they both fly through walls twice separately or whatever.
Yeah,
Both
he
indestructible.
injected so many antivirus Alice blood stuff that it like made him that way. Cool, I guess. He says, "I'm the future." We
Of
get
what?
a birthing scene
Of what?
where Alice gives birth to her clone. Essentially, water breaks and she pulls out, you know what I mean, her clone. And then the clone looks like it dies, but thankfully for the clone who's naked, Alice leaves her jacket on top of her so that the clone has something to wear. Not that she realized that was what it was for, but it was more of a respect thing. And then the two of them basically kill Isaac. And then, Wesker has a meeting being like, we're going to pick us up personally over here in Tokyo or wherever they are. And Alice gets on the line and says, "Nah, bitch, I'm coming with all my sisters."
Which is a mix of hype, but also like, wait, what? For me, I was just like, how is that going to work? Or like now we're getting to like crazy anime territory. I feel like we're just like, there is thousands of us.
And that's cool.
It's cool, but also really ridiculous at the same time.
And at the same time, I have zero expectations of the next movie continuing this. It could be back me like, it's just me because they all died. They all had short lifespans because of the blah, 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 blah. And that's it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Or is this going to be her on a green screen a bunch doing all these action moves?
Because they don't interact. You know what I mean? I was kind of expecting at the end there, real Alice to like at least put her hand on the shoulder of clone Alice as a reassurance, like, hey, it's okay. You know what I mean? Anything. And it's
give
like,
her a
no.
gun.
Right. Or even, yeah, exactly. Nothing. And then they see all of the new Alices starting to wake up. So that's cool. I have zero expectations, honestly, of the next movie.
And it sounds like they're going to Tokyo, too. Which I'm like, how are you going to get there? You're in Nevada. Fuel is bad. There's no fuel. Fuel is going bad. Planes? Do you know how to fly a plane?
A boat would be probably the only option.
But that...
barge. Hey, all of these Alices, they can sail a yacht.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta find a yacht, because out of all, like, I've actually tried to drive, like, a motorboat before. That shit's hard. And, okay, you're not going across the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, there's waves.
There's waves. There's storms.
Exactly.
There's so many variables.
You would need a barge
food
to cross.
And even if it would still take you weeks.
Whatever. They're just going to teleport there in between these two movies. And that's
Bruh, I swear to God, if that's what they do. I swear to God, they're like,
they're just going to be there. They're just going to be there.
Or they're going to be like, or what they're going to do to get rid of the clones is like, we all combine into one using telekinesis. And now I'm like Super Saiyan and I can teleport fly.
I'm Superman now.
Yeah, I'm Superman now, basically.
Yeah.
Over this
oh my God.
wretched Earth.
I will say, I had my prediction while watching the movie was around this part too, where like the clone is alive. Like, oh, real Alice is gonna die. The clone is going to then continue our story.
That's what I thought movies.
Too. And I actually thought that might have been cool. Not necessarily upset it didn't happen. I kind of like the fact that the original Alice is still the original Alice, and I kind of think it'd be cool if like, oh, there's me, and there's a bunch of clones in me. Hopefully they all recognize that. But if we're all cool, we're going to go take down the guy that made us. But I don't know. Anything else to add about the story, or we want to give our closing thoughts?
I wanted to say, this ain't a story thing, but I want to say that compared to the first two, probably combined, there was actually a lot of jump scare attempts in this that I noticed compared to the other ones. Like, there's a couple parts where it was like, she enters into it's like really quiet. She enters into the base or whatever, the laboratory, and there's a hanging wire that just like sparks.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. Or like there was a couple like loud noises all of a sudden, you know what I mean? When it was quiet, which I didn't see in the first two. And I feel like, what was the director again? Because it wasn't
Paul W.S. Anderson, baby.
Russell Malachi is the director. He's the writer in this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could tell that this was a different director just because the jump scares. Paul hasn't shown any jump scare attempts at all. He likes his action movies. And this guy had a lot more attempts at that. I feel like he also picked angles that were more horror based than action ones. It's hard to like talk about it when you don't have like actual visuals to look at. But I just noticed that kind of small stuff. I'm not saying it was over the top, like, oh yes, he was trying to make a straight horror film here. Like, I just think he tried to use some of the classic horror angles or whatnot, and also put in some of the jump scare. There's only two or three that I noticed. There could have been more that maybe just weren't executed as well. There's three of them. Like, oh, I didn't like flip the fuck out, but I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. It did make me jump a mild hair, but it I guess worked. And that's something different that I saw from the first two movies. Yeah, and
personally,
go ahead.
I was gonna say personally, I prefer the action of the last movie than this one. I prefer like they've already established that this series is not survival horror, very vulnerable people in tight spaces, right? We have a superhero essentially now. So like we're not going to be getting movies that are a horror movie, so to speak, like at all. Like, or at least that's not what I'm expecting. Who knows what they do in the future. But I just, honest to God, just want this to be action with zombies. Like, yes, have scary-ish scenarios, you know what I mean? But, like, I don't necessarily need her to be walking through, like, a building and then jump scare. Or at least I don't feel like there has much of a, I don't want to say precedent, but, like, much of, like, oh, yes, this is obviously what they've been going for the whole time for, you know, these movies. Like, we're 3 movies in, we're halfway done. I still have no, like, real, like, yes, this is what Resident Evil, the films, are. It's, like, just Mila Jovovich, and then the zombies, really, right?
And then very loose human plots that never get fleshed out because they die too quickly, or they don't actually grow in any ways besides, we survive.
Yeah, like, what would you call about the convoy's trip to Alaska? I guess that's just a B plot then. That's not even the goal of what the movie was. The movie was really just to have Alice fight her maker again, you know?
And it just loosely involved them, kind of.
Right. Bizarre. In any case, now that we've talked about this movie a bit more, can you concretely put this down in a ranking? Why don't you give me what you think your personal rankings are for these 3 movies so far, if you're able?
I would say this one, I guess, is I like the world setting more. I like the Vegas part, like the idea of it. Like I said, I think the bar was already not that high to begin with. I think the soundtrack was cool. Not as cool as the first Resident Evil. There was like a couple different variations of their beat that they had going in this. But I feel like the original Resident Evil just felt fresher because of the 2001. It feels more classical. When this was kind of like, hey, remember that beat? Yeah, it was cool. We don't really develop it too much. We kind of remix it here and there, but it isn't as fleshed out. I just thought I'm glad that they brought it back, though, in general, compared to whatever they did for the second one. I appreciate a different director doing this. I feel like it just was a little bit different. It still has the Anderson writing in it in terms of characters and plots, but at least like the direction, the action scenes just felt a little different, and it's kind of hard for me to describe the main differences between it, but I just felt like it was, like I said, there's more horror elements to it that I think Anderson doesn't touch upon. Not saying that I like that or not like it. I just glad that he didn't direct this one, and it was just different. And then I can kind of compare that to these other Resident Evil movies and Monster Hunter. I think Mila Jovovich in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's BA.
I felt like she was less impressive in this one than the previous one. Because remember, she's introduced to us in Apocalypse by riding a motorcycle through a stained glass church window onto some zombies.
Yeah, and then she does start off with like the shotgun outside. I also love the ending of the first one where she does walk outside.
Yeah,
and like it
does a pan out.
Yeah, like that was so good. When this at the end, I'm just kind of just like, okay, cool. I guess like this is getting ridiculous. I don't know if I like it or hate it. I'm kind of just in between on it, where I'm just like, it could be cool, but also could be like Really? Like that's where you're going for? Like that was your end goal with this movie? Like when you were writing this script, you were like, by the end, I want there to be a setup where we have her and her clones take over Japan. Okay, Paul.
I mean, yeah, I'm like the whole time watching this movie, I'm like, it's very obvious, especially since I know there's 6 of them. Maybe you wouldn't think this as all that much if you're watching this in theaters. But I'm like, very obviously she's gonna fight and kill the Doctor here, and Wesker is going to be the next movie's villain or the ultimate Umbrella villain. You know what I mean? Like now we're really starting to set an actual plot, so to speak, of like where they're gonna go. So like to me, like I'm not surprised to where we ended up. Besides the fact that she has a clone army, she's gonna start the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So I don't know. I some of the special effects were good, some weren't as good. I thought the makeup was well done. Like I said, I like the set pieces generally. I would put that as first, and my second one I'd put is the first Resident Evil, just because I feel like it's a little bit more classic for me, because I actually grew up watching it, and it's a little bit more grounded. When this is just like I said, we're starting into just like anime territory where like anything goes, anything is possible. Yeah. And the second one, it was kind of like not. I was expecting something else, and I didn't get that. I was expecting her to be by herself in a city, or expecting her to be by herself in the world, trying to figure things out. When it was just like, no, everything's just in the city. There's a quarantine. I just didn't like that plot very much. Or you have to get to the helicopter, save this kid, but not. Oh yeah, the Nemesis is like cool, but not cool. I don't know. I just didn't like it as much. Feels more dated in a way. I felt like that one felt more dated. But yeah, I guess I'm not saying all these are great though. Like I'm not in love with all these films.
That's tough.
That's why I'm just like, I guess the third one's my favorite. Will I watch this again? I don't know. If it's on TV, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. For me, I actually would go 2, 3, 1, Apocalypse, Extinction than the original, just because I liked the action a bit more in the second one, and I liked just the character dynamic they had going on a bit more in the second one. Ultimately, I don't think it was that good of a movie, but I don't think this movie's all that good either, and this movie feels more boring than the second one. And the first one I barely remember, besides the fact that I thought it was bad. You know what I mean? Like, it was okay for what it is, but as a movie, it's bad. You know? But it has Michelle Rodriguez in it, so it's tough.
Yeah.
Of course, she's not all that great in that movie anyway. But, yeah, so that was Resident Evil Extinction. The next movie is called Resident Evil Afterlife. We'll be watching that eventually in the coming time. Let's give our predictions. I know we kind of started, but like talking about it, but like let's give an actual prediction.
Okay.
What we think the next movie is. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna let you have a little bit of time to think. My prediction is we will open up, whether or not the movie opens up with Alice or not. When we see Alice, we are going to be introduced to Alice again, with her and a smaller amount of clones than what the pan out showed. That showed like an army. We're going to get maybe a dozen total. Maybe a dozen. But like clearly more than like 3 or 4. And they're going to be already at the city or location of Wesker's hideout, because she tracked where it is, and that's how we're going to start. And I don't think we're ever going to see Claire Redfield again. I don't think, because I mean they killed off the only other characters in there that we already knew in that group. We don't care about Alaska. So I think this movie Extinction clearly shows us that the trajectory of the story is simply Alice's revenge on Umbrella and not trying to save humanity at all. That's my prediction. What about you?
I generally agree. I honestly, I kind of agree verbatim. I was going to say, like, it's just going to skip to her being in Tokyo. Or, like, she's going to come off a boat or something, or a plane or something. They're not going to really explain how it worked, just, like, deal with it. It happens. She also has psychic abilities. Whatever. We can make it work. You're not going to guess. You're not going to ask. I could see that happening. You say a dozen clones. I could see that. I also just, I guess, I'll play a little devil's advocate. Well, you know what's going to happen is maybe they show a scene if it's not like the movie doesn't start right off in Tokyo or wherever it is, she's gonna like the rest of the clones she finds out are like they can't live on their own, or they have an expiration date or something like that. Maybe that's the caveat, is that since they're clones, they only live a week or two or something, and like maybe she explains that. It's the only thing I can see them doing if they really don't want to do that, and they just kind of wanted to be like, yeah, it's just fucked up they made clones of her. Maybe one of them survives, the one that she had there.
Well, that's the weird thing too. Like they didn't hold a conversation at all. You know what I mean? It almost feels like it's even leaning that way, just because there's no. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a little weird.
But they were moving in their water droplets, so I don't know. But yeah, I can either seeing it start in Tokyo, like you said, or it's gonna start with her right back there and being like, "Oh, yep, all these clones they can't survive." So I'm gonna end their misery now. I mean, there's like a big red button she presses, and they all just evaporate or something. Or maybe it's her trying to find a plane, and like she's on the run, and they're hunting her down. I don't know, but yeah, I guess my prediction would be like I agree with you. I think within at least the first 10 minutes, we're gonna be in Tokyo.
We're gonna be already where we need to be. You know. Yeah.
And whether or not there's clones, 1 of them, 10 of them, 100 of them. If it's 100 of them, I think that'd be like way too much. Yeah, and I also predict that there will be another new zombie creature to keep it fresh. There's going to be
something
a twist.
With wings, maybe something big.
A fucking gargoyle, for all I know.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Exactly. Also, I want to point out now, since we're talking about a Resident Evil movie, the new Resident Evil movie is officially titled "Welcome to Raccoon City," which is cool.
And I hope it's more like the basis of it's just like 2 or 3 people trying to survive.
I think it's literally supposed to be like the games. So yeah. So that is still slated for this year, believe it or not. It's for late this year, so we'll be talking about it soon-ish. I'm sure we'll get a trailer. So this has been Resident Evil Extinction. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. But stay tuned for more Sonic Movie Show stuff by going back in time and listening to older episodes. And I don't really know where I was going there with it. We have a bunch of other stuff. We talk about Sonic news, movie news, video game news, etc., etc. We also have another podcast that airs on the first of every month called The Chronicles of Diesel, a monthly jaunt through Vin Diesel's everything Vin Diesel has ever done. Every single diaper he's changed from his children, every single tax return he's filed. We're going through it all, but mostly just the movies and video games and songs he's written. Mostly just those. Listen to that. Follow us on Twitter. The show can be reached at Sonic Movie Show. So tweet at us what your thoughts are on Resident Evil Extinction and let us know what you think. If you haven't yet seen Resident Evil Afterlife, what you think the next movie is. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
We'll see you in the afterlife.